Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So yeah, this is the fourth and final week in a month of moving ourselves, expanding ourselves from good to great to grand. All right? And we've been doing that by doing this deep inner dive into knowing who we really are, believing in ourselves, paying attention to, well, what do I really believe? What are my values? What are my thoughts about myself and the world? And how do I align that with a power for good so that I can live being a power for good in the universe? So that I can live manifesting the vision of Centers for Spiritual Living in the larger sense is a world that works for everyone. How am I showing up to do that and be that? How am I choosing to live out loud, live on purpose, be my best and highest and truest self? And today, we step into this final piece of that puzzle of finding out what that purpose is, what that truest self shows up like when we talk about vision. What's our vision? And how do we stay true to it? And yeah, it's not just talking about it. It is choosing to step into it and live it. Ernest Holmes, author of The Science of Mind, which this is a quote from, is the founder of this philosophy that we call the science of mind. He said, what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have them repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. So that's what I'm talking about today. Finding the vision, aligning with the vision, but then stepping into it, living it, acting from it, practicing that truth of who we are in the world. And how do we clarify where we're at, what we believe? How do we monitor ourselves to make sure we are really living that bigness? Well, some good advice from a woman named Stephanie Dillon. She's part of the Rolling Stones Culture Council. And following the murder of George Floyd, when that whole Black Lives Matter movement really got empowered and underway, there were a lot of folks asking, well, how can I really align with that? How can I step into that? Who am I and what's my part in that? And her suggestion was that these are some questions that we should ask ourselves to bring ourselves into alignment with the word that we're speaking, okay? Here are her questions. How do I treat others? Good question. Do my practices align with my values? Better question. How am I holding others accountable? That's about not just saying, oh, well, they're just doing their thing, but stepping into it, confronting what needs to get really looked at. That's big, okay? But she finally came around to, but the main question is, this is important, who am I when no one is looking? when no one is looking. Because, we pattern ourselves on what we think we ought to be and do. We use the word should a lot when we establish how we ought to act with each other and with our communities. Some of that's how we're trained, when we're little kids learning good behavior. Yes, we are good, but our parents kind of have to guide us into what are good manners, what is a good way of interacting with each other. And we pay attention to that and we learn from that. This is a moment to step from that should into it's not should, it's I am this, and I express this. I express love in the world because I am love, and this is what it looks like, and this is how I choose to show up. Now, granted, some of that should kind of sticks with us. It goes back to what I look like in public, as opposed to what I look like in private. How do I show up for myself when no one's watching? Story I'm reminded of, this came from my daughter when she was probably a freshman in high school. So what would that be, about 14, give or take? Okay. Pecos High School, little tiny high school in a little tiny town in a backwater of New Mexico, not far from Santa Fe. So for a field trip in that freshman year of high school, they got on a bus and went into Santa Fe to tour an art museum. Now, my daughter was very familiar with art museums because she'd been dragged through a whole lot of art museums in her life already. But some of her friends had not had that experience, so they were in new territory, and it was kind of out of their league, right? And at one point in the museum, her best friend leaned toward her and whispered, "How do I look profound?" And she brought that home to us, and it became a big joke, because, it's not, how do I look profound? Okay. Now, we got to be kind to this 14-year-old girl who was new to art museums, and she was doing her best and wanted to look good doing it. Yeah. So I don't want to make too much fun of her. I do want to make fun of us as adults when we kind of do the same thing. Maybe not consciously, maybe unconsciously. But we set ourselves up, how am I supposed to look in this situation that I can show up as apt and at my best, and boy, I'm good. I want us to get over that. I want us to dive into, I am good, I am love, I am all that light energy poured into this individuation of the divine that's walking around being me. And then I want to express from that, as opposed to, how do I make this look good? I want to live good. I want to live my power. What Reverend Sue Ellen shared about those teenagers in Ireland, they were living their power, their joy, their excitement, their energy. That's what I want for all of us. That's what we're after. And that's what this whole month of good to great to grand is about. Reverend Ryan Alexander, who put together this month's material, tells us, by living our truth, embracing self-expression, and creating space for others to self-actualize, we become beacons of empowerment catalysts of change, and creators of a world where authenticity is the norm and every individual is given the opportunity to thrive. Well, there's a vision, isn't it? A world where everyone can be themselves, can be authentic, and can thrive. That's a vision. And we get to do the work of clarifying our vision for ourselves as individuals, our vision as a community like United Life. When we read our vision and mission statements, that's what those are about. Those are crafted from who are we, how do we want to show up in the world, what do we want the world to experience because we exist. And one of the ways we get that kind of clarity is in the visioning process. More about that in a minute. Howard Thurman, one of my heroes, is talking about that whole kind of empowerment and clarity and acting from. When he uses the word intention, we clarified our intention. And this is a big, long quote. I've only excerpted a couple bits of it for our slide. But he said, our intentions belong to us. They come, excuse me, they come full-blown out of the world in which we work and hope and carry on. They are not imposters. They are not foreign elements invading our world like some solitary comet from the outer reaches of space. No, our intentions are our spirit, the vital part of us. They become for us the bearers of new possibility, the enlarged horizon, the great hope. Even as they romp among the galaxies, they come back to their places in our lives, bringing with them the radiance of the far heights and giving to all our days the lift and the magic of the stars. That's what happens when we clarify our vision, open ourselves up to receiving it, and then live it into the world. That delight, that power, that shining energy of the stars that Thurman's talking about. That's what we want to latch on to. That's what we want to live from. Ernest Holmes, again, this time from a book called Creative Living, said, there is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. And I would say again that it shows up differently in each of us. It's the same energy, it's the same divine joy and power and excitement and enthusiasm. And it will channel through each of us as our own unique expression of it. And that's what the aim of visioning is about, is to uncover what is mine to know and feel and live and express into the world. So I find it interesting that this whole philosophy of the science of mind spent many, many decades from its beginnings really resting in two spiritual practices. We call ourselves a philosophy rather than a religion. We call ourselves a teaching of tools rather than a big list of beliefs that you gotta sign up for. And those main two tools for the many, many decades from the beginning were affirmative prayer, what we call spiritual mind treatment, which is an active speaking of our word. We got to hear that in Reverend Sue Ellen's portion of this day. And the other is meditation, the act of getting quiet and listening and allowing the inner truth to fill us, to be receptive to it. And then a third way, related especially to that meditation, started showing up in our practices several decades ago. I believe it was Michael Beckwith who really took it into practice. And it has become another tool, a big tool, and we call that one visioning. And visioning is the act of choosing to get quiet, to let all of our figuring out intellectual ego voices just calm down and say, well, we'll take you up again later. You're great, but not right now, thank you. And let the inner voice speak, asking some specific questions about what that inner knowing wants to tell us. And that's the practice that we'll be starting on a monthly basis next Sunday with Reverend Sue Ellen leading it for us. And I want to point out that some of why we're doing it is because in our town hall meeting a couple of weeks ago, where we were laying out where United Life is right now and how we got to do something about it, and Reverend Sue Ellen put into the conversation, so, are we visioning? Well, duh. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then we've spent the last, 2 weeks trying to push and pull. What's a date that would work that the most council members could show up for, but Linda's traveling, but I'm busy this night, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly, out of that, but, we can't seem to make it fit, what about during the Sunday service showed up? And suddenly we all relaxed and said, that's a wonderful idea. That in itself was letting that inner aha show up, as opposed to trying to figure anything out. The intention from within showed up as a way to make it work. So starting next Sunday, every first Sunday of the month will be structured around a visioning at the core of our celebration, instead of a talk like this one. And that's the opportunity to uncover that inner power, that inner knowing, that inner wisdom. And I would also say it's the opportunity to think bigger than we've been thinking. To get out of problem solving. It's not about, okay, we need some change. We need to change some things about United Life if we're going to stay viable. Well, that's true. And what if our vision was bigger than how to make United Life work? What if our vision was a world that works? And then the tools to be our best selves toward that vision start falling into place. Just like doing it during the Sunday celebration fell into place. There's so much power in that. To take it bigger than we think we are, to take it bigger than our particular needs or wants or agendas. What if we do that? And what if we know that when we do that, the details will show up to support that greater vision? Great quote from Baha'u'llah. This is the prophet who founded the Baha'i religion. He said, "Let your vision be world-embracing rather than confined to your own self." Now there's a call to bigness, isn't there? There's the call to be grand. And to know, again, that when we choose to be grand, the entire universe supports us, loves us, right where we are in being ourselves. We can trust that. We can own that when we choose to let Spirit be as big as it wants to be in us and through us and for us and as us. There's the vision. And then we live from that every single day. I'm going to close with this quote from Ernest. This is from Can We Talk to God? And then I'm going to take us into another prayer together. Paul said, "The greatest good we can conceive should be affirmed as a part of our everyday experience. From such daily meditation, we venture forth into a life of action with the will to do, the determination to be, and the joy in becoming." Yes, please. And let's take that into prayer. Oh, deep breath. Opening up to that space within us that knows the truth, has always known the truth, lives the truth. A truth of one life, one infinite good, one infinite power, one infinite presence. And whether we call it God or Spirit or Source or any name we choose to give it, it says, "Yes, my beloved, here I am that." And if that life, capital L life, is all there is, then my life is inside it, made of it, expressed in that same energy, expressing itself through all its creation. And as that is my truth, it's the truth of every being on this planet. It's the truth of every person within the sound of my voice right now. So as I speak these words for myself, if they resonate with you, please take them as your own. Standing in that truth of who I am, of what divine life is, I speak my word. And it's a word of intention. It's a word of clarity. It's a word of vision. I know that the answer to every question I have is already clear and present and articulated within me. I know that that whispered truth speaks itself into my ear, into my mind, into my heart in such a way that I hear it, I say yes to it, and I live it. I know and claim right now that I am divinely guided, and I am guided into a fuller expression of good. Good for and in the world. And because I am that, my own personal good expresses through me. I am loved, I am supported, I am sustained and nurtured, and I live knowing that. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for how good it feels to speak this word in this moment. I'm grateful for what shows up in my experience because I have spoken this word. I am grateful for what shows up in the experience of our world because I have spoken this. And in that gratitude, I simply let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.